See? He knows exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Sitting there, waiting, asking the question that I do believe we all want to answer ourselves. Are you ready for some football? Woo! Yes, we're in the playoffs. Well, not me, my Dallas Cowboys. That actually infuriates me. But yes, we made it to the playoff season. It's awesome. I can't wait. I have been waiting forever to do this video, and now we're going to be getting started. These are the top 11 Super Bowl matchups that I want to see. Why am I doing top 11, you might ask? Well, believe it or not, one of my inspirations for actually making videos as a whole is a person by the name of Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic. And he'll do top 11 as well, like top 11 scariest nostalgic moments, top 11 Simpsons episodes, etc. And why does he do top 11, you might ask? Because he likes to go one step beyond. And so shall I. But before we begin, I'd like to do a couple things. First, a few ground rules, so it's fair. Rule number 1, you have to be a team that's made the playoffs. There are 12 teams in the playoffs right now. If your team happens to be one of them, you're eligible to be on the list. Sadly, that does not include my Dallas Cowboys. Or the Oakland Raiders, for that matter. Which is a real shame, too, because the pick I was going to do is the 49ers versus the Raiders. A battle for the Bay Area. Considering it's Oakland's final season in Oakland, it's rather sad. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Let's see, rule number 2. This actually has to be a possible matchup. What do I mean by this? Well, basically, the Super Bowl is a game between the NFC champion and the AFC champion. Therefore, there needs to be one team from the AFC and one team from the NFC in this particular matchup. So, and believe me, there's going to be a lot of big games this weekend. And I'll be getting to some of those picks a little bit later on. But until, actually, darn, I completely forget. Oh, I have my computer right over there. Yes. I have my computer right there. I'll just quickly look up what my picks are going to be after I am done here. Okay? But at least for the games today. And not the games tomorrow, why not? Anyway. And finally, rule number 3. There had better be hype. What do I mean by that? Well, to be honest, every single possible matchup that you can get out of this set of playoff teams could potentially be pretty big. But the ones on this list that I have right here are actually stuff that's worth talking about for a long time to come. And even sometime afterwards as well. So, that should be awesome. And here we go. Let's have you guys take a look at the ground rules. Okay? You got them? Good. Alright. Now, before we begin, how about we start with, if I can get open, some honorable mentions, shall we? The first honorable mention goes to, if I can get to it, everyone versus the Titans. Why? Because the Titans have never won a Super Bowl. So whoever they beat, it's going to be talked about for quite a while to come. And finally, the other one, the other honorable mention that is, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Buffalo Bills. Why? Because they actually have one thing in common. Marshawn Lynch. A lot of people don't realize that before Marshawn Lynch became known as Beast Mode, he actually had a pretty good stint in Buffalo for a little while before he got traded. So, you can go to be some hype right there. Alright, now, the pleasantries are out of the way. In the words of Rosanna Pansino, let's get started with number 11. Now, this is one I actually had to group together because obviously how the playoffs work. You're going to have more than one team from the same division in the playoffs. Makes sense, right? Well, believe it or not, when it comes to the NFC, you have the NFC West, which features the Seahawks and the 49ers, both teams I will be getting into a little bit later on, and the NFC North, which features the Vikings and the Packers. And this is one of those instances where you have to group the latter two together. That's why my number 11 pick is the NFC North versus the Chiefs. Now, what's significant about this, you might ask? Because the Chiefs versus the Packers and the Chiefs versus the Vikings would be rematches of both Super Bowl I and Super Bowl IV, respectively. Practically where it all began. Wouldn't that be exciting, right? It was the first time the Vikings made it to the Super Bowl in Super Bowl IV. It was the first time the Chiefs had won one in Super Bowl IV also. A lot of people tend to forget the Chiefs actually won a Super Bowl. It's been that long. But the bigger and the more hyped of the two will easily be the rematch of Super Bowl I. And the icing on this already delicious cake, you got Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes. Oh yeah, I watched those State Farm commercials. That State Farm commercial is going to be absolutely bonkers. And I mean that in the best possible way. And this is only number 11. But how about we keep the rematch hype train going with number 10. Now, this is actually a rematch of a Super Bowl that happened several years ago. Actually, yeah. Actually, no, 7 years ago. And that is the San Francisco 49ers versus the Baltimore Ravens. It was Ray Lewis's final game, and he was able to ride off into the sunset. It was at that moment that man became my hero. And come to think of it, it was actually the first time I legitimately started paying attention to football a little bit more. So, yeah, you can thank Super Bowl 47 for this one, which is what the 49ers and the Ravens would be a rematch of. A battle of the number 1 seeds from both conferences? Yes, please. Now then, enough, you know what? I think we'll stop talking about rematches for a little bit. How about we move on to number 9? Now, this is actually one that is hype based on a coach. And if you guys are wondering, yes, of course I'm salty about my Cowboys not making the playoffs. Even more salty that it is the Eagles in the playoffs. But I can prove I can be a good sport. Hence why number 9 features the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, why is that? Well, the hype around this Super Bowl would boil down to the name of one individual. Andy Reid. That's right. The current coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Previously, the former coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. You can bet there'd be a lot of hype train. Not to mention Dougie Peterson, the current coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, studied under Andy Reid. Technically the student has surpassed the master because Doug Peterson does have a Super Bowl where Andy Reid does not. But it'll still be nice to see if the master can outdo the student in that regard. It'll still be interesting to watch, won't it? And you know what? Since I am a good sport, I'll talk about the Eagles a little more with number 8. I can just get over it. There you go. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Buffalo Bills. Now, what's so significant about this, you might ask? Well, the Buffalo Bills are a team that's been in the Super Bowl 4 times in a row. And they lost all 4 times. Fun fact, though, every single Super Bowl loss that the Buffalo Bills have had was against a team from the NFC East. The Giants, the Cowboys twice, and the Redskins. The Eagles have never faced the Bills in the Super Bowl, and vice versa. Would the Eagles continue the streak of NFC East teams beating the Bills in the Super Bowl? Would the Bills finally get their first Super Bowl win over an NFC East team, no less? Who knows? Sounds exciting, isn't it? Now then, let's move on to number 7, shall we? Now, this is actually one that I wanted to keep sort of a little theme. And that is the Minnesota Vikings versus the Baltimore Ravens. For what reason? Why, the color purple, of course. Oh, the purple-related puns would be flying in this game. Or should I say, the Superb Bowl. It'd be a lavender lashing, a mauve massacre, an amethyst astonishment, violet violence. I could go on, man. It'd be great. But, okay, before I start saying any more purple-related puns, how about we remove the blue, shall we? And move on to something a little more akin to number 6. Number 6. And that is, get it over with, the San Francisco 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, you're probably wondering, outside the fact that both teams have red in their colors, what's significant about this one, you might ask? Well, that can boil down to the name of one man, Joe Montana. A lot of people tend to forget that Joe Montana just didn't play for the 49ers. He actually got traded to the Chiefs, or he played for the Chiefs for a little while. And no, he didn't make it to the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, but he actually had some pretty memorable games, some of which are talked about even to this day. So, what better? In fact, if the 49ers were to meet the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised if they got Joe Montana to at least do the coin flip. Food for thought. But let's move on to number 5, shall we? Continuing on with talking about great matchups. Number 5, the New Orleans Saints versus the Kansas City Chiefs. AKA the Super Bowl that we arguably should have gotten, but 1 year ago. That really was a bad pass interference call. I mean, the Saints weren't able to go because of a bad no pass interference call. And the Chiefs were not able to go because, sadly, Tom Brady just got the ball in overtime. But if this Super Bowl were to happen, better late than never. You're not going to find a better opportunity to try for it than right now, technically. Okay, let's see. Let's move on to number 4, shall we? Or as I'm going to call it, I can get it over, the Sue Bird Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Baltimore Ravens. Yep, a battle for the birds. Or as Carl would say, a battle of overrated birds. Carl from IP Force. But yes, that'd be quite an interesting matchup as well. You guys are probably thinking, well, why aren't you grouping the Seahawks in there? Very astute to ask that. Well, that's why we're moving on to number 3. And that is actually one I decided to group together. The Seattle Seahawks versus the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, and or the Houston Texans. Now, why these 3 teams against the Seahawks, you might ask? Well, believe it or not, of the 12 teams that are in the playoffs, 4 of those teams have starting QBs that are of African descent. These are the possible matchups that you would potentially see if that were the case to meet them in the Super Bowl. It'd be the first time in history where the 2 teams that meet in the Super Bowl have starting black QBs. And it would be a testament to how far we as a society have come. Because for a long time, the positions of quarterback, middle linebacker, and center were predominantly played by white guys. I mean, it was just a different time. A not very, very good time, I might add. But I'm just thankful that we do live in better times. The world has better taste, obviously. And let's be honest, seeing Russell Wilson versus Patrick Mahomes, or Russell Wilson versus Lamar Jackson, or Russell Wilson versus Deshaun Watson, you can't go wrong with any of those. Okay. Let's move on to number 2. I'll give you a second to remove some of that giggling you guys potentially have. And that is something that I have touched upon in the past, but it definitely does bear repeating. The Minnesota Vikings and the Buffalo Bills. Now, what's so significant about this? Well, believe it or not, I mentioned earlier that the Buffalo Bills have been in the Super Bowl 4 times. So have the Minnesota Vikings. They each went there 4 times, and they haven't won one. Nope. Not a one. If these two teams were to meet in the Super Bowl, one would finally get the proverbial monkey off their back and get that Super Bowl ring. And the other would just simply keep that losing streak alive. And I dare say on all of you, if I was going based on my personal preference, this is actually the one I want to see the most. I mean, granted, the reason why I don't think it'll happen, because, the Bills are the 5th seed. The Vikings are the 6th seed. To say that both teams have uphill battles would be nothing short of an understatement. But if they met in the Super Bowl, it would be the icing on that already delicious cake of both teams making it in the first place. So that'd be awesome. And here's the thing, though. If you can believe it, there's actually one more game that would bring about more hype than this one. That's why this one's number 2. What's number 1, you might ask? How about I show you? Well, first of all, I have to show off the proverbial number, don't I? With number 1. Now, you will all notice, no point have I talked about the New England Patriots, have I? Well, there's a reason for that. Because my number 1 pick is everyone versus the Patriots. Now, you guys are probably wondering, everyone versus the Patriots, that's a cop-out. Your list is stupid. We don't like it. Okay, well, yes. First of all, I do agree. The Patriots are overhyped. Unless you're actually a Patriots fan, no one likes the Patriots. No one wants to see them in the Super Bowl. Believe me, I get that more than you could ever hope to know. Although, I will be honest, if my Cowboys had made the playoffs, this would be my number 1 pick. But you know what? In that regard, I'm glad my Cowboys didn't make it. Because you know what? Everyone versus the Patriots would be just as good. You're probably wondering, how is that remotely possible? Well, how about I break it down by seed, shall we? Let's see. The 6th seed, the Minnesota Vikings versus the New England Patriots. Well, the Vikings have been there 4 times. What if they go there for a 5th time and finally get their win against the team that's been there the most? Arguably the most, actually. So you have that one. Let's see. Moving on to the 5th seed, the Seattle Seahawks versus the New England Patriots. Russell Wilson versus Tom Brady. Always a fun matchup. But how about a rematch of Super Bowl 49? Yeah. Remember? They didn't give Beast Mode the ball on the 1-yard line? Who's to say we won't have that situation again? And how about going to the 4th seed? The Philadelphia Eagles versus the New England Patriots. A rematch of Super Bowl 52. And come to think of it, the Eagles and the Patriots met in the previous Super Bowl prior to Super Bowl 52. So this Super Bowl, the Eagles versus the Patriots, would decide the tiebreaker. That'd be fun, right? Plus, would Carson Wentz get out of the shadow of Nick Foles? Would Tom Brady be able to avenge that loss that arguably should never have happened? Who's to say? Now let's go on to the 5th seed, the 3rd seed, New Orleans Saints versus New England Patriots. Tom Brady versus Drew Brees? Where do I sign up? Or better yet, move on to number 2 seed, the Green Bay Packers versus the New England Patriots. Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers? A Super Bowl that a lot of us have always wanted to see? Yeah. But how about the 49ers, the number 1 seed, against the New England Patriots? I think that would actually have the biggest hype of them all. Why? Because at one point, Tom Brady actually got suspended for 4 games due to Deflategate. And Jimmy Garoppolo, the current QB of the 49ers, substituted for Tom Brady. And he was actually really darn good. Undefeated in that time, in fact. So, If the 49ers were to meet the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl, think about that for a second. Were the New England Patriots right to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo? Would Jimmy Garoppolo have proven that he was better than Tom Brady all along? Come on. These are the sorts of questions we all live to talk about. We all want to bear witness to. And believe it or not, it might actually happen. Who's to say? And before I run out of memory, I think I have time to do some... Oh, just drop that on the floor. A moment. There you go. Let's put this away, shall we? I'm done with that. Let me grab my computer, shall we? Oh. Okay. There you go. Hopefully this won't take too long. I'm just making my NFL matchups today, right now, while I'm able to. Come on. Ah, yes. Let's see. Who am I picking to win it all? Let's see. Well, actually, should I just go back right now? Well, I don't have the proper diagrams and whiteboards to show you what my Super Bowl matchup that I ultimately want to see is. Partly because, honestly, I don't really know who's going to make it to the Super Bowl. Those are just the matchups that I really wanted to see. A lot of us want to see, actually. So, all I can do is just pick the 2 games that are playing today, pick the 2 games tomorrow, and move on from there. So, in regards to the games today, AFC matchups, I actually think that the Bills have a better shot of winning this game than against any other team in the AFC. So you know what? Let's go Buffalo. And for tonight's game, you know what? I don't expect the Titans to ever go to Foxborough and beat Tom Brady in that stadium. So I'm picking the Patriots. So the Bills and the Patriots. Those are my NFL picks right now. And yeah. So, man, it feels good to have done that list. I hope I got a lot of the ones you're thinking about, or the ones you're talking about. Who knows? All I know is that this Super Bowl is going to be lit. Like, favorite, share, hit that subscribe button, follow me on social media platforms. I am very humbled I made this video for all of you guys watching. Enjoy for today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Saturday. Get ready to watch some football. And remember, if you guys don't want to talk to the channel, I'm always going to be here to lend an ear. And I'll always have your back. Take care and make good choices. See ya.